Just over a year ago, Hogwarts Legacy took the wizarding world by storm, and if you're anything like me, since I was little I always dreamed of attending Hogwarts as a student. From wearing the sorting hat, to flying a broom and exploring around the Forbidden Forest, or just having the ability to hold a little wooden wand that you picked up from Ollivander's. But I would be lying to myself if the biggest excitement for me as a kid wasn't going into the Great Hall and exploring around Hogwarts itself and discovering and uncovering all of the secrets within it. And I think Hogwarts Legacy delivered on all of that. As rumours strengthened about the possible sequel being made, I figured now might be a good time to open a discussion and talk about the things that Avalanche Studios should take from the first version, and unravel everything that was exceptional about the game 1 year on from its launch, but also take a dive into things that weren't so good. We can form an opinion on what Avalanche should incorporate into its next adventure, into the enchanting and mystifying wizarding world. But first, let's provide some well-needed context. Why does Hogwarts Legacy even deserve a conversation about a second title? And how well did it actually perform against other blockbuster titles? Hogwarts Legacy was one of the biggest selling games of 2023, ending a 14-year streak held by two of the largest gaming companies in the world. To put that into perspective, the last time a game beat those two in sales was a Wii Play on the Nintendo Wii in 2008. Avalanche beat Call of Duty and other Rockstar titles to claim its well-deserved accolade in a magical way. Not only this, but Hogwarts Legacy went on to be the most watched single player game on Twitch with over 1.3 million viewers. This game knocked Cyberpunk off top spot, which previously accumulated 1.1 million viewers, which when you think about it, that's super impressive. Especially for a novice studio that's known for making video game adaptations of Disney movies like Cars 2 and Toy Story, but nowhere near as impressive as this next stat. Avalanche went on to make over $1 billion, with over 15 million copies being sold across the world. Can you imagine that for a second? That's almost as high as Harry Potter's highest grossing film, earning Warner Bros. Studios $1.3 billion worldwide, or $1.45 billion in US dollars. But interestingly, 850 million, or 12 million copies of that, was made in the first 2 weeks of the game's launch back in 2023. So was this an early sign that the game struggled to monetize its product early on? Or can we be thankful that the game didn't constantly want us to open up our wallet for new DLC? Well, we'll discuss this a bit later on. But all this greatness was quickly halted by a rapidly decreasing player base on Steam, going from an all-time peak in February of 879k down to 204k in March and only 59,000 2 months later. And now, the game sits around on an average of 20k players. And whilst this doesn't include sales from other places like PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo, it's still a pretty good indicator of how fast the game rose to amazing heights and how abrupt it fell from said heights. So it's fair to say this game definitely lacks some core ingredients to hook players early on. So what did the game lack? Lacked a whole bunch of features such as RPG depth, PvP elements, lack of DLC, a variety of enemies being fairly lackluster, and a few key places and locations missed such as Diagon Alley. But let's go into each one of these in more detail. Whilst this game was meant to be an RPG, and to an extent it was, I think the gear really lacked any form of depth you would expect from an RPG game. For example, the wand itself. Whilst it was cool that you could explore the world and collect different handles for your wand, it ultimately didn't have an effect on your stats at all, which unless you cosmetically wanted to change the look of your wand, there really wasn't anything to incentivize you to explore and collect them in the first place. Secondly, the gear itself you had well appointed gear, which was green in rarity, to superb blue rarity, extraordinary, which was purple rarity, to the highest grade, which was legendary. But here's the problem. The gear only carried 3 stats that you could really affect: offense, defense, or a trait on the gear that might reduce damage taken from dark wizards. I think for this really to be taken to a whole new level, and what makes a game like World of Warcraft so great is the continual game loop they offer. And hear me out here. They add new items consistently to the game so you can log in, farm, and continually get better and improve your witch wizard's stats overall, ultimately making you want to come back on the game to be the best. And this leads perfectly onto my next point, player v player. Wouldn't it be so great if the game had PvP? Just picture this for a second. A world like GTA where you could log in, play with friends, roam areas, get punished for using forbidden spells. I mean, the opportunities are endless. Or even if they just had a few maps where you could go online, have some form of game mode built around, like say Call of Duty Zombies, where you could play with friends and survive waves of enemies. Or even things like larger world bosses or raids. I mean, you really can get so creative here and take elements from any game to make a really cool concept for PvP or PvE. And if you have any ideas that I haven't mentioned already, let me know in the comments down below. The next point is DLC. And as I mentioned already, Hogwarts Legacy has been out for over a year, and well, there is only now talk of releasing the PlayStation exclusive mission on Xbox and PC. But we need more than that. Give us another storyline with Poppy Sweeting or Sebastian Swallow or any of the professors, because that's some sort of storylines that I want to explore and get more deep with, as I think this is super important, as the storytelling for each character is what makes Harry Potter so brilliant. And to an extent, I think they've done a great job with all the characters in this game. I just think more depth, especially for your own character and why you even joined Hogwarts in the 5th year, would go a long way into giving the game the extra push it needs. Another thing I think they could have added to the map is Diagon Alley. I always wanted to go there, and I know we got Hogsmeade, but come on. Like, let me know in the comments down below if you would have loved to go to Diagon Alley too. Now, a topic that is really important for games is good enemy variety. And this is something that so many modern games fail to achieve. And Hogwarts Legacy is definitely one of those games too. Currently there stands 3 different types of enemies: the goblins, which fight at close range and rush a little bit more, the dark wizard and witches, which fight further from range, and the trolls, which use melee attacks. But while all these sound cool and great for variety, the goblins and dark wizards all fight using magic, and so despite the really fun combat loop, the lack of variety can really tone down a fight and suck the enjoyment out of it. Now lastly, before we get on to what the game did so well, I think the map overall in some places just was a bit bland. I get it, it's open world, and they probably wanted to try stay as true to the books and surroundings as possible. But once you kind of get out of Hogsmeade, the castle, or the Forbidden Forest, a lot of the rest of the map felt a little repetitive. It would have been nice if there was a lot more variety for sure. But enough of the negatives, what did Hogwarts Legacy do so well? And let's start with character customization. The character creator had a vast array of options to choose from that really gave you the tools you need to bring yourself to life in the game, and I certainly appreciated this. I also loved the transmog feature where you could change the appearance of anything acquired. So if you got a new legendary gear that you didn't like the look of but you wanted its stats, that's no problem. You could just change the appearance to something you did want, and I think more games should do this. Secondly, is if you ever just take the time to stop anywhere in the game and really look around at the attention and love and care they put into it, really, it's actually breathtaking. And whilst I won't cover any spoilers in this part, I actually really enjoyed the story between Ranrock and Victor Rookwood so much so I couldn't put the controller down. And I just kept playing because I couldn't wait to see how it all ended. And plus, I didn't want someone to ruin it for me over on Twitter or X or whatever you call it now. That being said, I would say the story felt a lot weaker than, say, Voldemort or Grindelwald. But I guess that's to be expected. Now, I'm sure you'll personally agree with this, but one thing they absolutely nailed on was the combat. I think the ability to link spells together and the ability to roll and dodge large enemies' attacks with a perfect combo provided enough depth for you to find each enemy encounter fun each time. And I specifically enjoyed how easy it was for you to switch between your spell diamond whilst in combat, which made the mechanics and the ability to link spells feel really fluid. Now, some of the other positives were the side quests such as catching beasts, breeding animals, ancient magic hotspots, Merlin trolls, astronomy tables, landing platforms, and customizing the room of requirements. But before we get on to my thoughts, this whole script has been about me wanting to be a child, run around Hogwarts, and this kind of links in with this particular part I want to ask from you. As a child, I always wanted to be a YouTuber and get 100,000 subscribers. And whilst I'm on that way, if you enjoyed this video and you'll enjoy future content like this, I ask, can you do me a huge favor and press subscribe to join my journey to 100,000 subscribers? Now, let's go on to my thoughts. Overall, I think Avalanche Studios did such a good job with so many aspects. I personally would say this is one of the best single player games I've ever played in my lifetime, all 31 years of it. And maybe that is because of my dream of going to Hogwarts as a child. And maybe it is because I'm copying Harry Potter with these glasses. But would I recommend it? This game offers the best so far version of the Wizarding World, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. Then absolutely 100% yes, this game is worth downloading. But similar to Hogwarts Sal's story that we discussed earlier, of the 40 hours I've accumulated in the game, most of that is from the initial launch period. And even despite having it been one of my favourite single player games, that's purely because I have done everything I wanted to do and there is simply no reason for me to replay it. But hopefully Avalanche Studios look to add some form of DLC in a not too distant future, or maybe look to add some form of multiplayer for the next version of the game. But I would be super interested to hear all your feedback and thoughts in the comments down below. But if you want to find out why this mobile game lost over 40,000 players, then check this video out here.